start off, please?
Yes, Chair, we're streaming now on YouTube. So this morning we have 2 premises licence applications for the subcommittee to consider. One for Oktoberfest at Beckett's Park and one for the Eccentric Englishman. So present at the meeting is myself, Maisie McInnes, Martin O'Connell, the Senior Licensing Officer, Alan Parr, the Licensing and Litigation Lawyer, and then we have for the subcommittee, Councillors Andrew Kilbride, Sally Beardsworth and Mike Warren. The first item on the agenda is for the appointment of a chairman. So could I please have a proposer and seconder for chair, please?
I'd like to propose, Maisie, that Andy Kilbride chairs the meeting.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Kilbride, would you like to take the chair, please?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today. A little bit of housekeeping before we start, if we can. Can I just remind people to turn their phones to silent or off, please? And we'll get cracking along. So have all parties received a copy of today's agenda? Can you confirm that? Yeah, Liz?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And so you've all seen a copy of the procedure of the subcommittee and what we'll be following today. Are there any questions at this point that anyone wants to raise about the procedure?
No, Chair.
No, right. Thanks very much. So we'll crack on with the first one, please. And this is the hearing in respect of the aforementioned applicant for a premise licence. I would like to introduce Martin O'Connell for the first one, please, with the Oktoberfest.
Chair, could we
Martin.
just have the declarations of interest first? Sorry.
Sorry, Maisie. Yes. Is there any declarations of interest from any members?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
No, none for me either, Maisie.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. And
Chair, could I just check that Mr. Roberts is happy that Ms. Cox is present during this part of the hearing?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the purpose of this report is to consider an application for a new premises licence submitted by Mr. Neil Roberts on behalf of Bavaria Events Limited for Oktoberfest on Beckett's Park, Victoria Promenade, Northampton. An application was submitted by Mr. Roberts on behalf of Bavaria Events Limited, and the application was received by West Northamptonshire Council on the 30th of June 2021. The premises to which this application applies is a public park, council-owned public park, on which the yearly event of Oktoberfest will be held over 2 days, this year being held on Friday the 15th of October and Saturday the 16th of October. The licensable activities applied for are as follows: the provision of films for the purposes of background video on Friday between 1800 hours and 2300 hours, and on the Saturday 1200 hours to 1700 hours, followed by 1800 hours to 2300 hours. For live music, with exactly the same hours as the films on Friday and Saturday. Recorded music for the same hours as the films and the live music on Friday and Saturday. For the performance of dance, again the same hours. For late night refreshment, from 2300 to 2330 hours, so just half an hour of late night refreshments on both nights. And for the sale of alcohol on premises only, on Friday 1800 hours to 2300 hours, and Saturday 12 to 1700 hours, and 18 to 2300 hours. The proposed designated premises supervisor is a Mr. Martin Barker, the holder of a personal licence issued by Bournemouth Borough Council. When a request for a new premises licence or sub-club premises certificate is received, the applicant must display a notice at or near the premises and serve a copy of the application onto the responsible authorities. For electronic copies, it is a requirement of the local authority to serve a copy of the application onto the responsible authorities, which was the case in this instance. This gives responsible authorities and interested parties the opportunity to make representations in relation to the application for a period of 28 calendar days. The last date for making representations with this application was the 28th of July 2021. The obligatory notice was displayed at the premises at locations around Beckett's Park as verified by licensing officers and as was the newspaper advertisement. Northamptonshire Police have considered the application and made no representation after considering the application and all the accompanying risk assessments and event management plans that came with it. Environmental Protection have considered the above mentioned premises licence application pertinent to the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance and made representation and having done so, agreed a set of conditions with the applicant that they wish to see applied to the premises licence if it is granted. A copy of these conditions and the email chain showing the agreement with Mr. Roberts can be seen at Appendix C of this report. Although agreed with the applicant, the application of these conditions to the premises licence changes the operating schedule to that which was applied for at Section 18 of the application, so therefore requires the subcommittee to decide on whether to grant as proposed by Environmental Health. The local authority is required to send a notice of the hearing to all interested parties and request confirmation of attendance. The hearing was sent on the 12th of August 2021 to the following: to the applicant, Mr. Neil Roberts, and to Mr. Gavin Smith, Environmental Health. Mr. Roberts is here today, but Mr. Gavin Smith is unable to attend and is happy for the meeting to go ahead in his absence. A plan of the premises layout is at Appendix B of this report. As far as options are concerned for the committee, if representations are received and at the end of the consultation period, the licensing authority must hold the hearing to consider them, it must take such steps.
Oh, Martin's frozen.
Yes, indeed. Just give him a sec.
License subject to conditions, both mandatory and any other conditions pertinent to the licensing objectives, to exclude from the scope of the licence any licensable activity to which the application relates, to refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor, or to reject the application outright. In considering those options, the committee must consider the statement of licensing policy for West Northampton Council.
So, Maisie,
Yes, Chair.
obviously we're having a little bit of internet disruption here. And obviously with Martin's report, it's coming in and out. Will we need to redo Martin's report?
Yeah.
Martin
so.
was just summarising the options that are contained in the report
Yes, yeah. Yes.
available to the subcommittee.
Yes. We've read them, yes.
So we're happy with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you are, Chair, but I think Martin's back now.
Yeah. Good luck with it. Martin, can you hear us?
I can, yeah. I'm here. I'm just not hearing you.
Okay. So basically, you froze halfway through your report a couple of times. So I take it you're just referring to everything that's in the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's frozen again.
He has indeed. He has indeed. So I take it you've read the report, Mr. Roberts, as well.
I have indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Where do you need me to go from, Chair?
Ideally, I think, Martin, we should go from the beginning if that's not too much trouble, and then we can be fully clarified.
Okay. I'll just hope the.
I know we've got it in the report, but just in case, you did cut out a couple of times, so just for clarification.
Okay.
My concern is if it happens again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not normally like this. I'm right next to where my Wi-Fi is, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, we'll go again. The purpose of this report is to consider an application for a new premises licence submitted by Mr. Neil Roberts on behalf of Bavaria Events Limited for Oktoberfest on Beckett's Park, Victoria Prom, Northampton. An application was submitted by Mr. Roberts on behalf of Bavaria Events Limited, and the application was received by West Northamptonshire Council on the 30th of June 2021. The premises to which this application applies is a public park on which the yearly event of Oktoberfest will be held over 2 days, this year being held on Friday the 15th of October and Saturday the 16th of October. The licensable activities applied for are as follows: the provision of films between the hours Friday 1800 hours to 2300 hours, Saturday 1200 hours to 1700 hours, followed by 1800 hours to 2300 hours. The same hours are applied for in relation to live music, recorded music, the performance of dance, and with late night refreshment, the hours applied for are Friday 23 to 23:30 hours and Saturday the same 23 to 23:30 hours. The sale of alcohol is applied for in relation on Friday 1800 hours to 2300 hours and Saturday 1200 hours to 1700 hours and 1800 hours to 2300 hours. Are we with me so far?
Yes.
All right, Martin, thank you.
The proposed designated premises supervisor is Mr. Martin Barker, the holder of a personal licence issued by Bournemouth Borough Council. When a request for a new premises licence or club premises certificate is received, the applicant must display a notice at or near the premises and serve a copy of the application on to the responsible authorities. For electronic applications, it is a requirement of the local authority to serve a copy of the application on to the responsible authorities, which was the case in this instance. This gives responsible authorities and interested parties the opportunity to make representations in relation to the application for a period of 28 calendar days. The last date for making representations with this application was the 28th of July 2021. The obligatory notices were displayed at the premises at locations around Beckett's Park as verified by licensing officers, as was the newspaper advertisement. Northamptonshire Police have made no representation after considering the application and the accompanying risk assessments and event management plans. Environmental Health have considered the application and have made a representation and have agreed a set of conditions with the applicant, which they feel are relevant to the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance. A copy of these conditions and an email chain relating to the agreement can be seen at Appendix C of this report. Although agreed with the applicant, the application of these conditions to the premises licence changes the operating schedule to that which was initially applied for at Section 18 of the application form, so therefore requires a subcommittee to decide on whether to grant as proposed by Environmental Health. Are we still there?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Right, so I'm just checking. I'm checking with Councillor Kilbride because sometimes he stops moving and I'm wondering whether it's stuck or whether he's just not moving.
I'm intensely hearing.
The local authority is required to send a notice of hearing to all interested parties and request confirmation of attendance. A notice of a hearing was sent to the following persons on the 12th of August 2021. It was sent to Mr. Neil Roberts, who is here today, and it was sent to Environmental Health. Mr. Gavin Smith, that he can't attend today, and he's happy for this hearing to go ahead without him. A plan of the premises and its layout is shown at Appendix B of this report. In terms of the options, if the representations are received, then we must hold this hearing, and we must take such steps. The committee must take such steps as appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The steps the subcommittee can take are to grant the licence subject to conditions, both mandatory and those imposed in relation to the operating schedule, to exclude the scope of the licence, to exclude from the scope of the licence any licensable activity to which the application relates, to refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor, or to reject the application altogether. In considering those options, the subcommittee must consider the statement of licensing policy and the guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, Section 9 of which gives guidance for determination of this application, and each application must be considered on its own merits. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Much appreciated. Very thorough there. Thank you. So next stage is we normally hear presentations from each of the parties But in this case, we've just got the applicant. Well, I'll just run through the script. You have an opportunity to make presentations later on in the hearing as well. And at the end of each presentation, you'll get the opportunity to ask any questions. But please keep questions only to what you've just heard. So I'll skip straight to you, Mr. Roberts, if I may, and give your application, please, your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this morning. We run a number of these events across the country. This year, we're actually doing 15, and we are right across October, going from as far west as Norwich, as far east as Norwich, as far west as Swansea, as far south as Plymouth, and as far north as Middlesbrough. And Northampton's pretty much in the middle of all of that. We rarely do we have issues with our events, and indeed we did do an Oktoberfest in 2017 on Midsummer Meadow with no issues or complaints that we were made aware of. Commercially, if I'm being honest, it wasn't the best event we did, but and also being very close to that main road was a little bit of a concern, but we did manage all that. So we're keen to come back to Northampton to do one in Beckett's Park this year. And as Martin mentioned, we proceeded through the license application and the notices and the newspaper ads, etc. I'm aware, and I think Martin alluded to, the only I was going to use the word representation, but I don't know if it technically classes as one, was to do with issues around environmental health, where myself and one of the environmental health officers basically agreed over email some conditions that we are both happy with, that are on, I think they're appendix of the report. We're very happy to put those into our operating schedule. The EHO guy was happy to have them in there, and I believe that's the only sort of area of, potentially contention during the consultation process. So very happy to accept those if that's the only additional sort of conditions that are being looked at the moment. Obviously, the subcommittee may have further things they may want to raise, but as we sit here now, I'm happy to take questions, but also very happy to accept the conditions that I've already accepted via email.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Roberts. Martin, is there any questions you'd like to ask?
There's no questions for me. The only thing I'd say is that Mr. Roberts, there's been, sorry, beg your pardon, I'm getting confused with another one. Forget what I'm about to say. Forget it. Sorry, beg your pardon. I'm getting mixed up with the cricket ground. Sorry.
I've got my hand up, Chair.
Yeah, 1 second, Sally.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Martin, thank you. Well, I'll open the questions up now to the subcommittee. And Sally?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Hello, Mr. Roberts. Obviously, you want this to be a tremendous success, and I'm sure it will be if it goes ahead. But the whole point is I'm a bit worried because we're still in a pandemic. It doesn't matter how, and people are still suffering because of that. And I just wondered what precautions you were putting on site to help people feel more safe. Things like hand sanitizers, areas where people can go and wash their hands and that sort of thing.
Sure.
I don't know whether you've thought about that. It's just, if people feel safe, they'll come to it. If they don't feel safe, they might not. So it's to your interest,
It's a very pertinent question. So what I've been saying to the safety advisory groups that I've been sort of meeting with on those other events I just mentioned was that we'll be, and bearing in mind some of these SAG meetings were sort of very, sort of June, quite early. I've been saying basically, I think it's prudent to wait until early September to look at what we're going to do because of the changing landscape. Now, obviously, we're getting very close to that date, and so it's become, you know, rising increasingly to the top of my inbox. I think, and I can't give assurances at this time, but I think what we are looking towards is customers will be asked to be double jabbed or do a lateral flow test 72 hours before arriving on the site, or have proof of their own natural immunity through a valid PCR test over, I can't remember the time frame, but basically customers will have to show one of those three things. I can't 100% at the moment say that's what we are going to do, but I think that's the likeliest outcome that we're going to do. For when we've got increased cleaning regimes, we've got hand sanitizer stations already booked in to the event. We will increase ventilation within the structure itself. It's a canvas structure, so we could basically open up panels to increase ventilation, which helps enormously, of course. We have some other things built in terms of the benches that the benches that we use, they're designed for 5 people, but we only ever sell them for 4 people. So there's always a little bit more space than you might think. Within the structure itself, it's always been the case that because we plan the events like this, there's always benches towards the outside where people, if they want to get away from people, they can. And it's something that when I'm in the event, I don't actually like, because I like to see a nice even spread, but people don't do that. They tend to go front and center of the stage. But in this environment, I think that's very much up to their decision. We'll be sending out information via social media in regards to face masks won't be mandatory, but they will be encouraged, that sort of thing. So yes, I've got a bit of work to do on this, but I think in the next couple of weeks that'll be a lot more firmed up. And I think even things like the staff doing lateral flow tests, that sort of thing. I think that, you know, we've got some. I'm working on 2 or 3 events in September, delivery in September, that basically taking a lot of what they're doing into what we'll be doing for Oktoberfest. So I think we'll be quite robust when we get there. But as we sit here now, I haven't got 100% plans, but I think you can hopefully gather that we're taking it very seriously, and we will have some very firm mitigation plans in place.
Thank you ever so much. I'm really pleased with what you've told me. I'm really pleased. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Warren?
Just one thing actually on what you said. It's quite it's, you know, assuring what you've just said concerning the COVID precautions that you're putting in. I would just add that I'd like to see a lot of signage around the site directing the public to the sanitisation stations, and you know, so they've got no excuse not to be able to find them, basically.
No, absolutely. Okay, yeah, that's a fair point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From myself, I think Councillors Bearsworth and Councillor Warren have touched base on the COVID situation. So I am reassured there as well. You've confirmed that you've agreed terms with the environmental health conditions, so I'm happy there. And so all in all, it's we'll go to the next part, if that's all right. No more questions, this is Harry? No?
Fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts, for that. So we'll go to the next part now. So if you can just ask Martin to sum up.
As Chair, my summary basically is what is contained in the report. I say this is an application for a once-a-year event. There were lots of risk assessments and plans already in front of you in terms of how this will be run. And we've heard that the COVID situation is being seriously looked at, and there'll be plans for that for in the forthcoming few weeks. So that's basically summing up from licensing. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and Martin. Subcommittee, have you had time to, oh, sorry, Martin, have you had time to say everything to the subcommittee?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Mr. Roberts, would you like to sum up?
Just to say, you know, we very much looking forward to coming back to Northampton if the committee are minded to grant the licence, and yeah, we look forward to a successful event and a safe event.
Okay, and do you feel that you had enough time to speak to the subcommittee?
Pardon?
Do you feel you've had enough time to speak to the subcommittee?
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you very much indeed. On that note now, we will try to make our decision, and we'll write to you within the next 5 working days and advise you about our decision.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
very
very
much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Maisie, can you take us into